Nothing is the relationship that dissolved and left you wondering if you are even capable of being loved. Nothing is the dream you had for yourself at 20 that at 35 feels like a stranger's dream, borrowed and now returned. Nothing is the question you are afraid to ask yourself because you are not sure you can handle the answer. That is nothing. And I say this not to be dramatic, but because the only way out of nothing is through nothing. You cannot leap over it. You cannot go around it. You cannot pretend it does not exist and hustle your way into something. The people who have gone from nothing to something, truly gone, not just shifted a few rungs on the ladder, but fundamentally transformed their existence. Every single one of them went through nothing rather than around it. They sat with it. They got honest with it. And in that honesty, they found the first seed of something. So let us talk about that seed, because here's what most people do not understand about the journey from nothing to something. It does not begin with resources. It does not begin with opportunity or timing or connections or luck. All of those things matter, yes. We would be dishonest to pretend they do not, but they are not the beginning. The beginning, the absolute, irreducible, undeniable beginning is a decision. A single, solitary, silent decision that you make inside yourself when nobody's watching, when no one can validate it, when nothing external confirms it. The decision is this: I am going to become more than my current circumstances. That is it. 4 words wrapped in 12. And everything else, everything flows from that decision, or it does not flow at all. There is a woman I want to tell you about. She was born in rural poverty in the American South. Her family had very little. She was raised partly by her grandmother, who was so poor that they wore dresses made from potato sacks. She was sexually abused as a child. She became pregnant at 14 and lost the baby. By every statistical measure, by every sociological prediction, her story should have ended there, or at least stayed small. But she made a decision, not once, but every day in small and large ways, that her story was not finished being written. She discovered a love of reading, and books became a doorway. She discovered a gift for speaking, and words became her wings. She became a local radio personality, then a television host, then one of the most influential media figures in human history, then a billionaire philanthropist, then a spiritual and cultural touchstone for millions of people around the world. Her name is Oprah Winfrey, and her journey from nothing, from real, grinding, painful, specific nothing, to something is not a fairy tale. It is a case study in the power of decision, persistence, identity, and vision. But I do not want you to think this is only a story about famous people, because the trap of talking about Moses and Oprah and the great transformative figures of history is that we put them in a different category. We say yes, but they were exceptional, they were special, they were chosen. And in doing so, we exempt ourselves from the same standard. We use their greatness as evidence of our ordinariness. And that is perhaps the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves. The truth is that the distance between where you are and where you could be is not as vast as it feels in the dark at 3 in the morning. The truth is that the same principles that govern Moses' transformation and Oprah's ascent are available to you, sitting right here, right now, with whatever you have or don't have, with whatever you're carrying or putting down. The principles don't know your zip code. They don't check your bank balance. They don't ask for your resume. They ask only one question: are you willing? Are you willing to begin? Not to succeed, just to begin. Because beginning is the act that separates those who move from nothing to something from those who stay in nothing and wonder why. Beginning is the bravest, most underrated act in the entire human repertoire. Not the grand beginning, not the press conference, not the launch party, not the social media announcement. The quiet beginning. The beginning that happens in your notebook at 5 a.m. before anyone else is awake. The beginning that happens when you make one phone call you've been putting off for months. Overcall. The beginning that happens when you walk into a room where you know no one and you introduce yourself anyway. Those small, private, unwitnessed beginnings are the foundation of every large and public arrival. Every tower was once a hole in the ground. Now let me speak directly to something that I know lives in many hearts in this room. Because if I am honest about what I have seen and what I have experienced, I know it to be true, and that is the weight of comparison. We live in an era of unprecedented visibility. Every day, every hour on the screens we carry in our pockets, we are shown the something of other people's lives. We see the finished product, the house, the body, the vacation, the career, the relationship, the smile, without ever seeing the nothing that preceded it. And comparison, particularly comparison without context, is one of the most efficient destroyers of human potential ever invented. Because when you compare your nothing to someone else's something, you will always lose that comparison. You will always come out on the lesser side. And losing that comparison over and over can slowly convince you that the game is rigged, that you were not meant to win, that the distance between your nothing and there's something is not a journey, but a wall. I want to tell you what that wall is made of. It is not made of talent differential. It is not made of fate or fortune or luck, though those things play a role. That wall is made almost entirely of the stories we tell ourselves about why we cannot move. Stories like, I'm too old, I started too late, I don't have the right connections, I didn't go to the right school, I come from the wrong background, my family doesn't support me, the economy is against me. The system is against me. My past is too heavy. My wounds are too deep. My mistakes are too many. Now here is what I need you to hear. And I need you to hear, and I need you to hear it clearly. Some of those stories are true. Some of those walls are real. The system is not neutral. History is not fair. Not everyone begins from the same starting line, and pretending otherwise is not inspiration. It is delusion. I am not standing here to tell you that the world is just, that the playing field is level, that if you simply want it hard enough, the universe will conspire on your behalf. That is not what I am saying. What I'm saying is this. True as those stories may sometimes be, they cannot be both your explanation and your destination. You can acknowledge the wall and still decide to climb it. You can honor the wound and still choose not to live inside it forever. You can understand the system and still decide to move within it, around it, or against it with everything you have. Because here's what I have learned from watching people make the journey from nothing to something. The people who make it are not the people who had no obstacles. They are the people who changed their relationship to obstacles. They stopped treating obstacles as evidence that the journey was impossible and started treating them as information about what the journey required. Every obstacle has embedded within it a lesson, a skill, a strength, the resilience that could not have been developed any other way. The diamond does not become a diamond in open air. It becomes a diamond under pressure. And the people who have built something real, something lasting, something worth having, not just material wealth, but depth of character, quality of relationship, richness of purpose, those people were pressed hard. Let me talk about identity now, because I believe it is the most underrated variable in the equation of transformation. We talk a great deal about strategy and hustle and opportunity, and those things matter. But before strategy, before hustle, before opportunity, there is identity. There is the answer to the question, who do I believe I am? Because you will always act in alignment with your self-concept, even when you know better. Even when you have read all the books and attended all the seminars and written all the goals and made all the plans. You will drift back to the identity you hold most deeply. The one you rehearse most consistently in the quiet theater of your mind. The one you would whisper if someone woke you at 3 a.m. and asked, who are you really? For many people who are stuck in nothing, the deepest identity they carry is not, I'm a person who is in a difficult season. It is, I'm a person who does not deserve more than this. Or, I'm a person who always fails. Or, I'm a person who is not like those other people who succeed. Those identities are not facts. They are stories. They were written by circumstances, by people who hurt you, by failures that interpreted themselves as verdicts. But they are not verdicts. They are data points in an ongoing story, and you are the author. The shift from nothing to something is fundamentally a shift in identity. It is the moment when you stop asking whether you are capable and start acting as if you are. It is the moment when you stop waiting for permission and start giving it to yourself. It is the moment when you look in the mirror and instead of seeing a person defined by what they lack, you see a person defined by what they are becoming. That shift is not arrogance. It is not self-deception. It is the most pragmatic, evidence-based position you can take because the evidence across centuries, across cultures, across circumstances consistently shows that people who believe in their capacity to change are the people who change. And people who have conceded that capacity to their past are the people who stay where they are. So how do you shift an identity that's been cemented by years of experience? Slowly, deliberately, through action. Because identity is not changed by affirmation alone. You cannot simply repeat positive statements to yourself each morning and expect the architecture of your self-concept to rearrange. Identity is changed by evidence, and evidence is created by action. Small, consistent, deliberate actions that accumulate like compound interest until one day you look back and you cannot see where the nothing ended and the something began. It starts with one decision, made in private, witnessed only by yourself. Then it is confirmed by one action, however small, that aligns with the person you are choosing to become. Then it is reinforced by the next action, and the next, and the next, each one adding a brick to a new structure of self. This is not dramatic. It does not look like a movie montage. It looks ordinary from the outside. It looks like someone quietly making better choices day after day, refusing to be defined by yesterday, committed to a direction even when they cannot see the destination. And let me say something about the destination, because I think we often get this wrong. We imagine something as a fixed point, a specific number in a bank account, a specific title on a business card, a specific address, a specific body, a specific milestone. And there is nothing wrong with having specific concrete goals. In fact, specificity is one of the most powerful tools of transformation available to us. But something is not a destination. It is a direction. And there's a kernel of truth in that mythology. The decision, the discipline, the daily choices are yours and yours alone. No one can do that for you. But the idea that great journeys are solo journeys is, frankly, nonsense. Every person who has built something meaningful did so in relationship with other people. They had mentors who shared their hard-won wisdom. They had peers who challenged and stretched them. They had supporters who believed in them on the days they could not believe in themselves. They had communities that provided context, resources, accountability, and belonging. The quality of your relationships is one of the strongest predictors of the quality of your future. Who you spend your time with shapes what you think is possible, what you think is normal, what standards you hold yourself to. If you are surrounded by people who have made peace with mediocrity, their peace will become your ceiling. If you are surrounded by people who are relentlessly growing, their growth will become your floor. This is not about being snobby or dismissive of people who are struggling. We are all struggling with something. It is about being intentional about who you let speak most loudly into your life. Whose voice becomes the voice you hear when you are deciding whether to push forward or give up. Find people who have already made a portion of the journey you are trying to make. Not to worship them or to compare yourself to them, but to let their existence be evidence that the journey is possible. Seek out communities of people who are serious about growth. Not serious in a joyless, grinding, performance-obsessed way. Serious in the way that people who love what they are doing are serious. With passion, with curiosity, with laughter at the absurdity of it all, with humility about how much they still do not know. Those communities exist. They are in every city, in every industry, in every field of human endeavor. Find them, contribute to them, let them find you. And be willing to be a mentor as well as a student. Because one of the most profound truths about human development is that we solidify our own understanding by teaching others. The act of articulating what you know, of helping someone else navigate a stretch of road you have already walked, does something to you. It clarifies your own thinking. It deepens your own commitment. It reminds you of how far you have already come, which is important. Because we have a tendency to keep our eyes so fixed on how far we have to go that we forget to honor how far we have already traveled. Let me talk about discipline and consistency now, because inspiration without these two things is just a pleasant feeling that evaporates by Monday morning. Discipline is the bridge between your intention and your reality. Consistency is what turns isolated action into transformation. And both of them are hardest not in the big moments, but in the ordinary ones. Anyone can show up when the energy is high and the crowd is cheering. The question is, can you show up when it is cold and dark and quiet and no one is watching and you are tired and you would rather not? Can you do the thing you committed to doing even when you do not feel like doing it? Because that is where character is built. That is where the journey is won or lost, not in the extraordinary moments, but in the ordinary ones, accumulated day after day until they form something extraordinary. I want to be careful here because there is a culture that has elevated the idea of grinding and hustle into something close to a religion, and I think it has done real damage. There is a difference between discipline and self-destruction. There is a difference between consistent effort and compulsive overwork. The journey from nothing to something is not a sprint in which you destroy your body and your relationships and your health to reach a destination that will somehow make all of that sacrifice worth it. That is a lie. That destination, if reached at that cost, will not feel like something. It will feel like more nothing, wearing a better costume. Real transformation is sustainable. It is built on rhythms of effort and risk, engagement and recovery. It honors the whole human being, not just the ambitious striving part, but the part that needs sleep and play and laughter and love and stillness. Some of the most productive things you can do on the journey from nothing to something are the things that look least productive. Sleeping enough, spending time with people you love, moving your body, sitting in silence, reading things that have nothing to do with your goals, being bored and letting your mind wander. These are not interruptions to the journey. They are part of the journey. They are how you build the sustainable engine that can carry you not just to the first destination, but to the second and the third and beyond. I want to speak now about gratitude, which I know can sound like a soft optional nicety tucked at the end of more serious advice. But I want to challenge that perception because gratitude is not soft and it is not optional. Gratitude is a strategic orientation. It is the practice of acknowledging what you have before you demand what you want. And it does something remarkable to the human psyche. It shifts your dominant frequency from lack to abundance, from nothing to already something. Here is the paradox. The people who are most grateful for what they have are often the people who end up with the most. Not because the universe rewards good manners, but because gratitude changes how you see. When you are in a state of genuine gratitude, you notice opportunity differently. You notice possibility differently. You notice the small beginnings that to a person locked in complaint are invisible. Gratitude is not denial of what is difficult. It is the refusal to let what is difficult be the only thing you see. It is the widening of perspective to include the whole picture, the hard parts and the gift parts, the closed doors and the open windows, the darkness and the stars that the darkness makes visible. Think about what you already have that once was something you hoped for, the roof over your head, the breath in your lungs, the capacity to learn, to choose, to try again, the people who love you, the experiences that shaped you, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones, because they gave you something no comfortable life could have. Depth, resilience, compassion, the ability to understand what it means to suffer, and therefore the ability to genuinely meet others in their suffering. These are not small things. These are the raw materials of a meaningful life. And a meaningful life is the realest something of all. Let me come toward the close with this thought, because I think it is the most important thing I will say. The journey from nothing to something is not just your story. It never is. Because no human life is an island. Every transformation sends ripples. Every ascent creates a draft that lifts others. Every person who finds their way out of nothing and into something becomes, simply by existing in that new place, evidence for someone else that it is possible. You become the burning bush for someone else's Moses moments. You become the Oprah someone else reads about and thinks, if she could do it, maybe I can too. You become the mentor, the example, the proof of concept for the generation behind you. This is why the journey matters beyond you. This is why you owe it. Not just to yourself, but to everyone watching. Everyone who secretly hopes your story ends well. Everyone whose courage is waiting for confirmation that the something is real. Because when you make it, and you will if you commit to the journey, you carry them with you. Not just the people you know and love, but the strangers who will one day look at what you build and feel for the first time in a long time, that they too might be capable of building something. You were made for this, not in spite of your nothing, but because of it. The nothing taught you what you could not have learned any other way. The nothing showed you who you were, when there was nothing to hide behind. And nothing gave you a hunger that comfortable people never feel, a drive that ease never kindles, a depth that only excavation reveals. Your nothing is not your liability, understood and honored and put to its proper use. Your nothing is your greatest asset. It is the empty canvas. It is the unplanted field. It is the open road before the first wheel marks the dust. It is the silence before the first note of the song that would change everything. So let me ask you one final time, the question that started us on this journey. What do you do when you have nothing? You shift the identity you have been carrying like a borrowed coat that was never yours, and you put on the one that fits the person you are becoming. You stop waiting for permission and you give it to yourself. You find the people who are already on the road and you walk with them. You fail and you learn and you get up and you try again differently. You rest when you need to rest. You push when you need to push. You stay grateful for the raw material, even when the raw material is rough. You tell a new story, not a naive story, not a story that pretends the obstacles are not real, but a story in which you are not defeated by the obstacles. A story in which you are, in fact, defined not by what was taken from you or denied to you or difficult for you, but by what you chose to do with all of it. You are not your nothing. You are the person who is going to do something with it. You always were. The only question was whether you were ready to believe it. And I genuinely, wholly, unshakably believe that the fact that you are here in this moment, listening to these words, is evidence that you are. You are ready. The nothing is behind you. The something is waiting. And all it needs, all it has ever needed, is the brave, quiet, world-changing decision that you are going to walk toward it. Starting today, starting now, starting from exactly where you are, with exactly what you have, becoming exactly who you were always meant to be, from nothing to something. The old story, the most personal story, your story, go write it.